I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight as we celebrate the contributions of great career civil servants. My name is Bob Tobias, and I'm the director of the Key Executive Leadership Program at American University School of Public Affairs. Since its founding 36 years ago, Key has been the leader in the education and leadership development of federal executives. Key students bring their experience in government to their learning. Key graduates bring their education to their experience. It's an enriching circle of learning and leadership. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Barbara Romzak, who's the Dean of the School of Public Affairs. Dean Romzak is new to AU this year, succeeding our former Dean, William Leogrand. While she may be new to AU, Dean Romzak knows Washington well as a leading authority in public management and accountability. Her scholarly research spans government reform, contracting, and network service delivery. She studied public management in federal agencies such as NASA, Congress, and the Air Force, as well as state agencies, local government, and nonprofits. I imagine some of you might be feeling a little nervous right now, knowing that you might have been studied, analyzed, and written about by Dean Romzak. Please know Dean Romzak has put her data aside to join us this evening. We're very proud to have Dean Romzak as our leader. She's held leadership positions at the University of Kansas and has held guest scholar positions at the Brookings Institution and the University of Hong Kong. She's also a fellow of the National Academy of Public Administration and has received honors from the American Society for Public Administration and the American Political Science Association. Her scholarship includes 3 books, scores of journal articles, and numerous book chapters. We know Dean Romzak will take our school to new places in student, faculty, and alumni achievement. Please welcome Dean Barbara Romzak.
Thank you, Bob, for that introduction, and I want to thank you all for showing up and joining us in this celebration of outstanding work in the cause of the public service. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here today. I am delighted to be here at American University. For those of you who don't know, I'm new. I've been here just now 4 months, and I'm still finding my way around. One of the reasons I was interested in coming to American University is exactly this kind of an opportunity, the chance to interact with people who are doing such extraordinary work at such a high level of complexity as is required for leadership positions in the federal government. So the chance to interact with people who are doing the good work of the public, who are doing it in under extraordinary conditions, and as you all know, under extraordinary challenges these days, challenges to the legitimacy of government, that people who succeed in these kind of conditions truly deserve our recognition and our thanks, and I'm very glad to be part of that. Now, you may, or many of you will know, but not all of you, that the School of Public Affairs was established by President Roosevelt. The school was established by President Roosevelt, and he was concerned that we start producing people who could work in the federal government and bring along initiative, constructive thinking, practical idealism, and in service of the national government. This is what our award winners have done tonight. They brought initiative, character, constructive thinking, and practical idealism to the cause of the programs that they're running. So for us to take the time out on this night of nights with debates and sporting events going on that are drawing other people's attention, it's truly rewarding to see so many of you show up for this kind of an event. Now, the School of Public Affairs turns out quite a large number of students. Over the years, we've generated 18,000 alumni who have gone on to careers in public affairs, offering degrees in for undergraduate students, master's students, and doctoral students. We have a very proud tradition of turning out students who go on to great success. And one of the important ways we do that is by combining theory and practice. And the practice part is letting our students out into the world of public affairs and having them work in internships. The other part is bringing individuals, such as our award winners tonight, into the classroom. And one particular program we have that emphasizes that is our Key Leadership Program, which Bob Tobias has been so effective at running. The executive program allows individuals who are holding significant roles in the federal government to acquire the education to complement the experience that they can bring to the job challenges. So I ask you please to sit with me and honor our award winners tonight. We emphasize the executives who have been extraordinarily accomplished and the kind of contributions that they can bring to the public sector represent models for the rest of us to strive for. Now, I would like to take just a minute to introduce the individuals who are also part of the Roger Jones Award Committee, in addition to Dave Walker, who is the chair of the committee. We also have Robert Cleary. Are you here, Robert? You were here? Did he? There's Robert in the corner. We have Robert Cleary, a former dean of the School of Public Affairs. We have Morton Downey and Harold Finger. Would you please give us a high sign where you are? Yeah, okay, great, great. And now I'd like to introduce the chair of the Roger Jones Selection Committee, Comptroller General of the United States, David Walker, former Comptroller General of the United States. Now, in the true spirit of public service, he has continued his work in public affairs after stepping away from his government service. He is the founder and president and CEO of Comeback America Initiative, which is dedicated to promoting and achieving specific fiscal solutions for our country. Now, if he looks a little dusty and ragged around the edges, it's because he's spent the last few months on the road in a bus, the kind of bus that rock stars use. I hope it was well appointed, stopping at campuses in 17 states with the goal of trying to raise awareness among young people about our fiscal future and about the role they need to play to help us avert a disaster. Our school was very happy to be the last stop on his event, and our event was called Speak Out, Don't Freak Out. And the freak out is language that undergraduates today can relate to. I'm kind of lost with it. But it is yet another example of how David Walker continues to provide service to the public even after he stepped away from his government role. It is a model we all need to aspire to. Join me in welcoming David Walker to the podium.
Thank you, Dean Romzek. As she mentioned, I'm chairman of the Roger W. Jones Selection Committee. I'll make a few brief remarks about the tour before I go on to tonight's activities. I just came back from a 34-day, 27-state, 9,500-mile bus tour that started in New Hampshire, went to Nevada, went as far south as Florida, and ended up here at American University in D.C. The purpose of the tour is relevant to tonight's awards because the purpose was to prove a hypothesis that I've had for some time. Number one, government's grown too big, promised too much, and has waited too long to restructure, but it's not too late. Secondly, that the American people know we're in trouble, they can handle the truth, they're willing to accept tough choices. They're disgusted with the lack of progress from elected officials of both parties, and that they're willing to accept tough choices if they're part of a compromise that they deem to be fair. 97% of Americans believed that the economy, jobs, and fiscal responsibility should be the top priority in this election, and yet only 8% believed that they're getting enough attention. 85% believed that it was going to take spending reductions as well as additional revenues to solve the problem, and they want it solved soon. The bottom line is that government is going to have to restructure for the 21st century. And leading that effort to restructure will be, of course, the President of the United States, whoever the American people decide, and the Board of Directors, meaning the Congress of the United States. But tonight's awardees, along with their SES and SL civil servants, are going to really be on the front lines. They're going to face even greater challenges and opportunities as we try to put the finances of the federal government in shape at the same point in time while meeting the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Candidly, with the caliber of the people that have been selected tonight, I'm confident that it's a job that they are up to, that their colleagues are up to, and that we can successfully meet if we move quickly. You know, each year, federal agencies nominate their very best people for this Roger W. Jones Award, and in fact, virtually every awardee has won multiple other awards, including presidential rank awards, before they're even considered for this award. We received a record number of nominations this year. Let's just say that made the task of our committee challenging, to say the least. There are many people who are deserving of being recognized, but the two individuals who are on the stage with us tonight are extremely deserving. There are many excellent people in government who have won this award in the past. Our civil servants contribute towards making America a better place. They have an impact on our daily lives in many ways that we don't even know. And I would encourage all of you to look at your programs to get a sense of who some of the past awardees have been for this award. Tonight, we've got two well-deserving professionals who will join the list: Thomas L. Mesenbourg Jr. from the U.S. Census Bureau and David Wennergren from the Department of Defense. We normally make a practice that these awards should be presented by those who are best prepared to introduce them and who know them best, namely their colleagues, the individuals who nominated them for the awards. Mr. Mark Doms, who's Chief Economist of the Department of Commerce and has been nominated by President Obama to be Undersecretary of Commerce for Economic Affairs, and Elizabeth McGrath, Deputy Chief Management Officer with the Department of Defense. I will now introduce Dr. Doms, and then I will come back after that award is done so that we can make sure that I can introduce the next presenter after that, Elizabeth McGrath. Dr. Doms was nominated by President Barack Obama as Undersecretary of Commerce for Economic Affairs on September 14, 2012. He's been the Chief Economist for the Department of Commerce since August of 2009. Prior to joining the department, Dr. Doms served as a senior economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and he worked at the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve Bank in Washington, D.C. Dr. Doms began his career in federal service at the U.S. Census Bureau Center for Economic Studies. He received a B.A. in Mathematics and Economics from the University of Maryland of Baltimore County and a Ph.D. in Economics from the University of Wisconsin, Madison. Dr. Doms, please.
Thank you for that introduction. It's a great honor and privilege to present the Roger Jones Award to Tom Mesenbourg tonight. I've only worked with Tom for a short period of time, but have found that time deeply rewarding and have learned much from his calm, steady, insightful, and consistently professional style. Tom accepted a job at Census Bureau right out of graduate school from Penn State University. He was hired immediately after he had a telephone interview, and that was because Census knew that we were competing with the CIA, who was also interested in him. We still can't prove that he didn't accept both jobs. So instead of repeating the information that's in your pamphlet that describes Tom's career at Census, let's take this short time and hear what people who have known Tom over the years, people Tom has mentored over the years, what they have to say about him. We spoke to many, and we heard many common refrains. The most common refrain we heard is that we heard that Tom is a man of integrity. He is faithful to his words by his deeds. Tom is also committed to the development of others. He's committed to their success by entrusting responsibility and providing guidance. Quite a few told us, with some laughter in their voices, that Tom is a decider. They said that if you come to Tom with an issue that needs resolution, you better be prepared to leave the room with a decision being made. One employee relayed a story about a trip that Tom and others made to Charlotte, North Carolina for a conference. An unexpected snowstorm arose and shut down the airport. And unlike the other employees on this trip who were content to ride out the storm in the airport in Charlotte, Tom rented a four-wheel drive vehicle and drove back to DC. For those of you who know Tom, you probably have that voice in your head, that voice that sounds like Tom, saying something like, "I'm not letting a little snow stop me." So Tom made a decision and he implemented it. That's how he works day in and day out. With great pride in their voices, a number of people also told us about how Tom was an innovator long before the word became popular, and how he encouraged others to improve processes and themselves. They pointed out that Tom was already looking into electronic reporting on the economic census before technology was widely available. They said Tom knew it was coming, and he wanted them to be ready to get on board. Other comments that we consistently heard about Tom include, 1, he's a great listener. 2, his leadership style is who he is. It's not just something that he dawns on in the morning when he comes to work. 3, he supports the leaders that he has chosen. They agreed that Tom always stood on the bow of the boat, calm and steady, looking ahead, directing them, and improving the Census Bureau. Tom, you humble us by the commitment, accomplishments, humility, and integrity you have shown to the Census Bureau, to the men and women you have ushered into their own paths of greatness, and to the American people. So congratulations, Tom. You are supremely worthy of this award. And one last thing, I was told that if you look at Tom's picture, many women in the Census Bureau years ago really enjoyed having someone who had resembled Tom Selleck so much.
I'm afraid that was a time when I was running more than I am now. So, well, Mark, thank you so much for those kind words. And I want to thank American University's School of Public Affairs for honoring me with this prestigious award. I also want to thank my wonderful wife, Faith, my daughters, Erica and Alina, and all of my family that have provided unwavering support. Their sacrifices and patience contributed greatly to any success I've had over my career. I especially want to thank all the Census Bureau employees that I've had the honor to work with over the past 4 decades. And finally, a special thanks to all my family, friends, and colleagues who took time out of their busy schedules to be here tonight for this wonderful celebration. You know, this award is special in that it honors federal public service. This is a challenging time to be a federal employee. Many dismiss our contributions to the nation, question government's role in our society, and consider public service an antiquated calling. Well, I've been a federal employee for 40 years and have never regretted my career choice. I've had the opportunity to do important work, developing, producing, and directing statistics that inform public and private decision-making. Democracies require statistics that are credible, trusted, nonpartisan, and relevant. And it's been my good fortune to spend my entire career at the Census Bureau, a great institution. Carrying out our mission as fact finder for the nation has been exciting, sometimes challenging, but always fulfilling. My fervent wish is that this award will inspire more young people to heed the call of public service. I've been fortunate to work with federal employees who inspire me every day, and they've inculcated in me the importance of public service. I'm especially appreciative that Roger Bugenhagen, the person that hired me 40 years ago with a phone conversation and mentored me during my early career, is able to be here tonight. From Roger, I learned that common sense is truly not common, that you lead by example, and you can only be an effective manager by mastering all aspects of your job. From Shirley Callick, a Census Bureau legend, I learned the importance of challenging the status quo, understanding the budget from beginning to end, and that big ideas can lead to big results. I was lucky enough to work the last 3 years with Bob Groves, our former director, and the single most effective leader I've ever worked with. Together, we implemented a change agenda that promises to transform the way the Census Bureau does business. While I'm humbled and honored to receive this award, the thousands of Census Bureau employees that I work with really are the ones that deserve the honor. Without their dedication, creativity, and contributions, I could not have accomplished anything. Well, let me conclude by saying that the most important thing that I've accomplished has to do with growing our staff, empowering them to help resolve the many tough challenges we face, and encouraging them to broaden their experiences and skills by seeking other opportunities in other parts of the Census Bureau. A diverse, adaptable, and highly skilled workforce is a necessity for our future success. I'm also very proud of the talented leadership team that we have established. They are dedicated public servants committed to ensuring that the Census Bureau remains a national asset. And I believe our most important legacy as federal executives is to leave our organization stronger and more effective, a place where young people want to be employed, an organization with a pool of future leaders equipped and prepared to tackle new challenges, and an organization where employees embrace and are proud to be public servants. I think the Census Bureau is such an organization, and I could not be prouder of our entire Census Bureau staff. So thank you very much.
Tom, very moving, very deserving. You reminded me of a key word that we don't hear enough of, and that's the word stewardship. Stewardship means that as a leader, whether you're in the public sector, the private sector, or not-for-profit sector, your job is not just generating positive results today, not just leaving things better off when you leave than when you came, but better positioned for the future. Really was part of your remarks, and I commend you for that because I think we don't have enough people focusing on that. And now, Beth McGrath, who was sworn in as the Department of Defense's first Deputy Chief Management Officer, will introduce our next awardee. She currently serves in that capacity, which is presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed since July 1st, 2010. Previously, Beth served as Deputy Director for Systems Integration for the Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Before she was at DFAS, she served in a variety of program management roles, culminating in program executive office level oversight responsibility. She herself has won a number of awards, including presidential rank awards. So Beth, please come up and do the honors to introduce David.
David, thank you so much. Dean Ronzek, thank you so much also for not only your contributions that you have made to, I'll just say, our young people across the globe, but what you will make to this particular university. And thank you all for being here this evening. I'm so happy actually to be here and to talk about Dave, and because it's not often you have the opportunity just to sort of brag on one of your folks, and really tonight is the opportunity to do that. We have not only have the opportunity to talk about Dave, but the other contributions that have been made for by many, I'll just say public servants It is true, words have been said, it is a very difficult time to be part of the public sector team, but it is oh so very important. And as mentioned, I have been around in the public sector for quite some time and find it to be the most valuable experience. And it has been and it continues to be for me, and it's a terrific opportunity. And although the Defense Department is very different from the Census Bureau, there are a lot of things that are also quite common in terms of ability to make forward progress, enable change, create greater transparency and opportunity for things to move as one government, as one entity. And it takes individuals like these two gentlemen here to make those things happen. They do not, unfortunately, happen by themselves. It is an honor, frankly, to present the award to Dave tonight. Like its namesake, Roger Jones, Dave has served with distinction in a variety of roles in a range of complex organizations around the defense enterprise. He's an extraordinary leader of people and change. To a person, people want to be on Dave's team, work on in his office, work for him, follow him, because he has that type of impact on so many people. You know, and I say everyone loves Dave. They love Dave because he's a great guy, but he's a terrific leader, and he's someone that I worked with very closely before he and I actually worked together in the same office, which is what we do now. So Dave gets to see me every day, which I'm sure is the highlight of his each and every day. But I'll let him share more of that with you. He has nearly 32 years of experience working both in the Department of the Navy and in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. During this time, he has increased both efficiency and effectiveness in so many ways. There isn't anything that I have come across that Dave is not yet able to do, but we continue to challenge him. He improved security of government networks. He broke through organizational boundaries to identify executive branch-wide solutions as the vice chair of the CIO Federal Council. He's led enterprise software license initiatives. He brings people together every day to work through complex problems like electronic health records or data transparency, information exchange. He champions new technology ideas like the Common Access Card and open source software. All these are groundbreaking ideas that Dave champions, not because they're about him, but it's about making the government a more innovative, with more agility, place to work every single day. I also must say that he takes care of people. As I mentioned, everyone wants to be on Dave's team, and it's hard to sort of keep them off his team because he really is sort of a magnet for people. Not only that work for him, but he nurtures and cares and grows each one of the individuals that works for him. He takes the time to sit down with them, to understand, and to build not only an individual, but a highly effective team. He also takes the time to nurture our next generation of leaders, which is so very important. It is a very difficult time, as has been mentioned, to work in the federal government, and it is oh so important that new blood come in behind us, if you will, to carry on those things that have been identified. He truly embraces the core tenets of the Jones Award, including outstanding achievements as a senior leader, coupled with great commitment and passion. He's a tremendous pleasure to work with and is very deserving of this award. And I will also say this year has been a year of firsts for Dave. Not only has he contributed greatly in his every day in terms of leading the government to greater places and identifying places where we can go if we only wish ourselves to, but he decided to also improve himself. And I'm sorry, Dave, I have to share. In April of this year, we decided as a team, as an office, to do a sort of a team building event. It took the form of a 10-mile race. Now, Dave may not look like a runner, but he made it all 10 miles and signed up for a half marathon as soon as that was over. I think later he regretted signing up for the half marathon, but he did it. And it is just, frankly, another way that demonstrates Dave's not only commitment to sort of the job, the people, to himself and his family. He just is an all-around, again, super guy, terrific leader, and I am proud to have the opportunity to work with him every day, and in particular, to present him this award tonight. Dave.
Thank you. This is quite an honor, and for those of you that know me, you know I'm fascinated by leadership in the human dynamic, so this particular award that recognizes executive leadership is very, very special to me and very meaningful. And I'm also appreciative of all the outstanding work that you at the university have been doing, preparing and grooming and nurturing and sustaining the next generation of leaders, and I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight. So to quote the author of one of my favorite leadership books, Max Dupree, leadership is an art, and it's an art that's often lost on those who think only of leadership as a proclamation of self and what I can achieve. Because I've known some great leaders, and there's a common thread that runs between them. And it's all about, regardless of the management style that they have, it's all about this ability to unleash the creativity of others, to help champion ideas and give people the opportunity to go and make a difference and be responsible for the delivery of results. And this is particularly true in government service, where problems almost always require you to work across organizational boundaries, to bring together disparate groups and get them to step out of their comfort zones and try to embrace a new reality. Over a decade ago, the book First Break All the Rules was written and offered some fascinating insights into why you keep your job. And it has very little to do with compensation or benefits. My very good friend and mentor, Dan Porter, who's here tonight, described a really simple formula about this. 3 things. It's all about who you work for, who you work with, and what you work on. And I have truly had the great fortune to work for some fabulous bosses, people who are willing to lead, to coach, to mentor, to give you the space to go get things done, and maybe just as importantly, to be friends too. One of them is Beth McGrath, who took one for the team tonight and came up here and actually talked for 3 minutes about what a nice guy I was. So I definitely owe her a glass of wine. The other is Dan Porter, my good friend and former boss and mentor. I'll tell you, great bosses make all the difference in the world. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it's all about who you work with. And for me, I've enjoyed my entire career of being able to work with young men and women who choose careers of service and sacrifice to defend this nation far from home in harm's way. And that's an inspiration to me every day of my career. But even more so, it's about friendships. And the First Break All the Rules book also talks about how important it is to have your best friends at work. And I've been blessed in that regard too. So for all of my friends, those that I've worked with in the past, those that I've worked with now who are here tonight, words cannot begin to express how much I appreciate your friendship. And of course, the heart of it all is all about family. Because family, as you pointed out, makes a lot of sacrifices for these kinds of jobs. And so I owe a very special thank you to my wife, Robin, and the wonderful family that we share, some of whom are here tonight. It's important. Important work, and you got to have a support structure to be successful at it. The third tenet is this idea about what you get to work on. And I've been involved in a lot of different disciplines in my career, and I truly feel like I've been able to be a lightning rod for change. And if you're a hopeless optimist like me, that's just a wonderful opportunity as opposed to a recurring chance to get burned. And so, I'm going to stick with that optimistic view of life because I see opportunities all around us. No matter what the times are like, you look at the world today, there's this imperative about technological change that's racing at a pace never seen before, coupled with tough financial times. And to me, I see opportunity, right? And it's tough when times are tough financially, because when financial times are tough, we tend to hunker down on the things that we know and the things that we're familiar with, and we stop thinking about what's new and what's possible. It's particularly true in the business world that we live in. These business systems that many of us have talked about for a number of years, have been around for a long time, and they all have strong constituencies. They're sort of like small children. They're babies. They were created, they were nurtured, they were sustained, and they're loved. And as an agent for change, sometimes your job is to tell people that their baby's ugly. and that's not always an easy thing. But some of those babies are old enough that it's time for them to move out, go to college, get a job, and be replaced by new ideas. And so for me, it's been a great ride. And under the theory of, pay it forward, I thought in closing I would give you 4 quick pieces of leadership advice that I've found useful over my career. The first one is, be a positive force for change. Larry Bossidy has this great quote about leaders get the behaviors that they themselves exhibit and tolerate. And it is so true. Your actions are like ripples on a pond, resonating out, and they will always have so much more impact than your words ever will. Second one is that new ideas often need to escape the fabric of the organization in order to take flight, to gain escape velocity away from the antibodies of the status quo. But the new idea will never survive the tenure of the leader unless you find a way to fold that idea back into the fabric of the organization so that it can be owned by the people who work there who have skin in the game to see it through. The measure about whether or not your idea sticks is when your ideas are now manifested in other people's actions. The third one is that it's a windy corner being a change agent. And a tool that I've found useful over my career is this idea about surrounding yourself with a cloud of witnesses. Who are your heroes and what do you admire about them? What are the ideals that you ascribe to and strive for? And can you use those people as sort of a board of directors to help you make tough choices as you go through your career? And finally, have a light touch, but a steady hand. Know when you need to go first, know when you need to coach, know when you need to do what Peter Drucker said and help make people's strengths effective and their weaknesses irrelevant. Know how you can create an environment that unleashes people's creativity and fuels their passion, and perhaps most importantly of all, know when to get out of the way. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to the winners. I think they really embody public service. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mickey Edwards, who was a member of Congress for 16 years and the chair of the Republican Policy Committee. He's taught at Princeton and Harvard and has provided commentary for the LA Times, Chicago Tribune, and NPR. He's chaired task forces for the Council on Foreign Relations in the Brookings Institution and brought leaders of all stripes together in very, very constructive ways. At the Aspen Institute, he currently runs a political leadership program for elected officials. All these accomplishments make Mickey Edwards a leader in Washington, but what truly sets him apart is his long-standing dedication to thoughtfulness, sometimes in short supply around here. His book, The Parties versus the People, How to Turn Republicans and Democrats into Americans, recently published by the Yale University Press, describes our current political environment as deadlocked, embattled, and warring. Can our future be better, more productive, with empowered citizens working together with elected officials to get the government they deserve? I think we're all ears. There are also a couple of fellows who might address that issue later tonight, around 9 o'clock. Get those boxing gloves on. But now we've got a vision from a leader with no stake in the political game except to improve the way we govern and the way we live. Please join me in welcoming Mickey Edwards.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Working with you through all of this time to try to improve the quality of what we're doing in government has been a great joy to me. This is very, very humbling to be able to be on the stage with these guys. And when I tell you, the next time you hear people talk about what's wrong with government and what's wrong with bureaucracy, here's the rebuttal. The service that you guys do every day, that you do, year after year, this is not a half marathon. What you all are doing is full marathon all the time, and we are really, truly grateful for what you do. You deserve these honors, but I will say, as you both said, it's not just you. You're exemplars, but the people you work with in your departments, agencies, every day really are what keep the country going, and we owe so much to you. So I'm really honored to have a chance to share the stage with you. I have to say a word because of the introduction. Thank you for mentioning the name of my book. I'll probably mention it several times. The publisher insists on that. But you know, the big title, the parties versus the people, kind of was it's not very, you know, creative. You know, it's just out there. The subtitle, which was, the book grew out of an article in the Atlantic magazine, and the editors of the Atlantic wrote the subtitle, which was How to Turn Republicans and Democrats into Americans. And, you know, when they told me that, I said, well, that sounds a little harsh, don't you think? And they said, well, did you read what you wrote? And so this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, you know, a very challenging time that we're at. This was mentioned before. 2.25 centuries ago, our founders created something very different from what had existed before that in most of the world. And that was that they said, we are going to create a system of government in which the people are going to be citizens, not subjects. And there's a big difference because governments tell their subjects what to do. Citizens tell their government what to do. And they created this form of representation, of representative government, where they put in the Constitution a system in which, with all the great work that people in our federal service do, every single major power of the federal government, with apologies to the guys who are going to square off at 9 o'clock, you know, every single major power of our government is not in the White House. It's in the Congress. The power over war, over what programs to create, when to end them, when to expand them, how much to spend, what to spend it on, what to tax, how long to tax it, who to tax, what programs, what treaties will be approved, who will sit on the Supreme Court, who will sit in the cabinet. Every one of those is a congressional power. And that makes the idea of representation fundamental to our system. That we're a combination of a republic and a democracy. We're a republic in that we are a constrained, constitutionally constrained system that constrains both government and citizens, majorities. But it's a democracy too, because it says the people will choose who are going to make those decisions, not, you know, small subsets. So let me talk a little bit about what's actually happening and whether or not, this is our challenge. The founders created this system of citizenship, and the challenge is whether or not we can sustain it. So let me talk about some of the things that have put us in a bad. I mean, first of all, does it work? Is the system functional? Has it ever seemed strange to you that every 2 years we go to the polls to take back our country from the people we just gave it to? It's kind of like we go there and we're like Charlie Brown, certain that this time Lucy is not going to yank the football away and we're not going to fall flat. But why does it fall flat? Why do we see a system where no matter what is on the table, whether it is a stimulus package, a budget, a Supreme Court nomination, what we have is not Congress, but the NFL, two teams trying to knock each other off, who can't come together on almost anything. That's, I'll say, I don't know how many of you study history and look at the history of the presidents, but I found one thing that all four of our first presidents agreed on. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and Madison all agreed on one thing. It wasn't tariffs. They didn't agree on that. They didn't agree on whether they were pro-British or pro-French. They agreed on one thing. Do not create political parties. They said it over and over again. And what do they mean by that? They had political parties. What they meant was, don't create these kinds of permanent factions that are always locked in battle with the other team. They talked about creating factions that shifted and that had people in them who used their brains to think about what was the right thing to do for the country, not what was the right thing to do for their party. So I want to tell you, the people today are just as good as they were, just as well-meaning, just as patriotic. So why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because we have created a system that rewards incivility, that rewards intransigence, that punishes compromise, punishes cooperation, punishes compromise. You know, how many times have you been in a conversation where people say, why can't we come to a consensus? It's a silly idea. You know, maybe the three of you, if you decided you're going to go out to eat together afterwards, might come to a consensus on where you're going to go. If you got everybody in this room, you could never have a consensus. You got to have compromise. We are a nation of over 300 million people with diverse experiences, diverse backgrounds, diverse ideas. The only way we can come to a conclusion to build our bridges and keep them from falling down and provide ammunition to the troops when they need them, and to pass a budget to do the things to keep our water pure and to keep our prescription drugs safe, the only way we can do that is if we ultimately are willing to sit down and talk to people who don't agree with us and find the compromises that are necessary in order to move the government forward. Why can't we do that? We can't do that because we have created a system, an artificial system. It's not part of the Constitution. We have created a system in which we elect those people who are most successful at appealing to the narrowest, most ideological, most partisan base. How have we done that? In every state, almost, candidates for public office, in order to get elected, first have to go through closed party primaries dominated by small subsets of the population. And let me give you a couple of examples. Now, with David here, I'm a little reluctant because he's a math whiz, and I'm terrible at math. I can't do quant at all. I apologize for that. I can't, which should make you worry because of the fact that I was on both appropriations and budget. In the state of, I'm just going to use a couple of examples. So in the state of Delaware, Joe Biden becomes Vice President of the United States, and there's a vacancy for the U.S. Senate. Ted Kaufman is appointed to that position, and then that's temporary. And then they have to choose who will be the next choice of the people of Delaware to be their U.S. Senator. Beau Biden is the current Attorney General. He's very popular in the state of Delaware. He's a good public servant, and he decides not to run. Why did Beau Biden decide not to run? Because he knew he couldn't win. Why couldn't he win? Because everybody in this room, everybody in Delaware knew who would be the next senator. It was a guy named Mike Castle. Mike had been governor. He had been in the U.S. House, very popular in the state. And they had a primary. You got to do this. This is part of the game. You have to primary. And a lady named Christine O'Donnell ran against him. And I don't care whether you would have been for Mike Castle or Christine O'Donnell. I mean, it's none of my business. But she beat him in a primary. She got 30,000 votes in a state of 1 million. But not only do we have closed primaries, but the two major political parties have colluded in 46 of the 50 states to create what they call sore loser laws, which means if you run for your party's nomination and you lose, you run in a primary or you lose in a convention, your name cannot be on the ballot in November. Now, I only know a few of you. I don't know most of you. I know something about all of you. And what I know is this. When you go to the store, if you buy a new cell phone or a shirt or a pair of shoes or whatever it is, You want choice. You want choice in all kinds of things, except for how we pick the people who decide whether we go to war or what our taxes are going to be, because we have allowed the parties to come together and say, I'm sorry, Delaware, 30,000 of your 1 million people have just said, Mike Castle is no longer one of your options. So let me turn to Utah, another state. 3 million people in Utah. And Robert Bennett, incumbent senator, running for re-election, very popular in the state. They had a convention. 3,500, now I'm not good at math, but 3,500 of 3 million doesn't sound a lot, high percentage. 2,000 of those 3,500 voted for candidates other than Robert Bennett. Robert Bennett, because of the sore loser laws in 46 of the 50 states, name could not even be on the ballot. Have any of you wondered how somebody, I'm not going to take sides, I'm not. Have any of you ever wondered how somebody like Todd Akin could be the nominee of a major political party for the United States Senate? How did that happen? Because there are 6 million people in Missouri, and he got something like 200,000 votes in his primary out of 6 million. And when he did the things he has done, which I don't have to explain to you, he was there on the ballot. Every other Republican who had been on that ballot was no longer eligible to be a choice, including others who had held statewide office. No longer eligible to even be on the ballot to be chosen. So that's one of the problems. The closed party primary system that allows these two private power-seeking clubs to be able to tell us who we can choose between. What does that say about representation? So let me give another example. We allow, in 37 of the 50 states, we allow the majority party in the state legislature to draw congressional district lines to do the redistricting. And yeah, I've spent my life in politics, right? So I'm very, I'm full of myself, and I'm self-referential, and it's all about me. And so I was teaching at Harvard, and I would talk about this, and I would say, look what they did to me, because here's what happened to me. I'll tell my own personal story. I'm a Republican, and I ran for office in Oklahoma City, which had not elected a Republican since 1928. My district was 74% Democrat, so I've already proved to you I'm not very bright by the fact that I ran. But somehow, I won. I don't know how I won. They didn't know how I won, but I won. Well, it was heavily Democratic. The state legislature was 9-1 Democrat. By the way, all the things, if it sounds like I'm attacking Democrats, well, you ought to see what Republicans do. We got it nailed. So what happened was, because they were upset by this, the 9-1 Democrat majority in the legislature said, well, let's just redraw his district. And they do that. They have the power to do that in 37 of the states. And so I don't know how many of you have been to Oklahoma. It's not tiny. Every bit of New England fits inside of Oklahoma. And I represented Oklahoma City right in the middle of the state. And they redrew my district straight up to the Kansas border and halfway over to Arkansas. And I talked about, big upside down L. And I used to talk about, look what they did to me. Poor me. I mean, I wish they would cry for me, Those of you who are close enough can see I am wearing penny loafers. I'm a city dude, guys. To me, food comes from a grocery store. And I've been on a farm once, I think. I spent all my life living in cities. And because the parties were able to redraw district lines, I was now representing wheat farmers and cattle ranchers and small town merchants. There's a provision in the Constitution. This is a very smart audience. And I will bet most of you can name almost everything in the Constitution. And there's probably one thing you would forget. One of the most important parts of the Constitution. Every senator and every representative must be an actual inhabitant of the state from which they're elected. And there's a purpose for that, a reason. It's that the ideal is, if we're going to put the power in the legislative branch, then you, when you select the people who are going to have all that power, ought to be able to know them. And so you should be able to pick somebody who is from your community, who knows your community, who knows the economics, the interests, who knows the political leanings. And you turn it around. If I'm running there, you know me. You know my reputation. I live there. I'm a neighbor. What do we do to that ideal of representation when we say these two clubs can draw congressional district lines and have wheat farmers and cattle ranchers represented at the table in Washington by somebody who cannot effectively articulate their concerns because that was to the advantage of our political party? So, okay, I'm gonna skip over a couple of things, and I'll say a word about money. Just a word. I'm not going to say money. So money. We have corporations are people, right? Corporations are. I mean, what were those guys smoking? I mean, please. Interesting. I'm willing to concede that there is a likelihood and maybe even a probability that the members of the Supreme Court do understand constitutional law. What do they not know? What do they not understand? Corporate law. Corporate law. The very act of incorporation shows the distinction between a corporation and a person. But anyway, so I'm not going to go there. I have this strange proposal in my book. I did mention the book again, right? So, I had this strange proposal. What do you have in common when you stand in line to vote? Every other person in that line is a human being. No machines, no entities. And so I have proposed that we allow campaign contributions only from living human, except for Chicago, they do it differently, but, only human beings. No corporate money, no political action committee, no labor union money, no political party money, just people.